There's a whole lot of mutants in the Marvel Universe, like, a lot. Sometimes it's hard to keep track of some of the less mainstream ones, let's be honest. And sometimes it's easy to assume that some characters are mutants by association. So today, we are clearing that up for 10 mutants, with our list of the top 10 superheroes you thought were mutants. We'll be extending past superheroes a little bit and looking at characters in the comic books who are kind of morally ambiguous, although trying to stick it to those who are more inclined to be heroic than not. So with that in mind, let's get to our list. Starting us off in at number 10, Carol Danvers. While these days it seems that Captain Marvel Carol Danvers is anything but a mutant, there was a time period back when she was Miss Marvel and binary that confused some. That's because she was associated so very much with the X-Men. She was actually briefly a member of the team too. So, context time. After Carol dealt with some pretty nasty sexual assault by Marcus and Mortis, she walked off the Avengers team after none of them did anything to help rescue her when she was clearly in need. It's a whole thing, we've talked about it a lot on this channel. She ended up coming into contact with Mutant Rogue, who absorbed her powers and her memories, severely screwing her up for a bit, might I add. Now, because of her association with the X-Men, the character found a way into a lot of their stories, many of which were penned by Chris Claremont, who actually had an affinity for Carol's character. And there was also her appearances in the X-Men animated series. She showed up in the X-Men, New Mutants, Uncanny X-Men, and Excalibur too, so easy to assume that perhaps she was a mutant rather than just a human with superpowers who was also half Kree. Moving on to number 9, LONGSHOT. LONGSHOT is a character who is from the Mojoverse, a dystopian world in which he was paradoxically genetically engineered to be a clone of his future son. He was raised a slave until he led a rebellion against the ruler of that dimension, Mojo. Now he's rubbed shoulders with the X-Factor investigations, the Exiles, New Excalibur, and of course the X-Men, which is why he's commonly believed to be a mutant. He also dated a mutant, Dazzler, and he has 4 fingers. So, just some fun little facts to tack on to the end of her number there. The more you know. Moving on to number 8, Warlock. Warlock is a curious character. He first debuted in the New Mutants issue 18 back in 1984 and is an extraterrestrial mutant robot. While that does sound absurd, it is because he is part of a race called the Technarchy, an alien race of mechanical organisms that survive by infecting living creatures with the techno-organic transcode virus for draining that infected creature's life energy for themselves, or life glow as they call it. Glow up. Warlock, compared to others of his race, is significantly more compassionate, and has found himself on the X-Men team, the New Mutants team, X-Factor, and many others over the years. So yes, he is kind of a mutant, but he's also an alien robot, so that doesn't quite really count, now does it? Up next, number 7, Shatterstar. Shatterstar is also a character from the Mojoverse, the universe run by the executive producer-esque satire Mojo, who forces heroes to compete in gladiator-style television shows and does other pretty terrible stuff. Anyway, Shatterstar is much more of a time traveler if anything. He too is a genetically engineered being, built to be the perfect gladiator in one of Mojo's competitions. Often he is believed to be a mutant because of his association with X-Force and X-Factor, but it is not the case for Shatterstar, just a genetically engineered human. Moving on to number 6, Spider-Man. Okay, so to most Spider-Man fans, it is no secret that he is not a mutant. Peter Parker's origin story is arguably one of the most well-known superhero origins in all of history, if we're being honest. It's up there with DC's Man of Steel and Cape Crusader. So, this number, we are actually taking a slightly different direction. Instead, we are looking at a time in which, in his own universe, an alternate universe, Spider-Man was believed to be a mutant despite the fact that he wasn't. This went down in Marvel's House of M timeline, a crossover in which Scarlet Witch had altered reality in order to make mutants the ruling class over humans. Now, Spidey was believed to be a mutant with Peter Parker's identity being public knowledge. He was a bit of a celebrity. But when he was outed, the backlash was pretty brutal, to the point where this alternate version of Peter actually wanted to kill Magneto, whom he saw responsible for the whole House of M event. Now let's return to our regularly scheduled programming with our next number. In at 5, Mimic. Mimic, aka Calvin Montgomery Rankin, is a human mutate who was the first character added to the X-Men team who wasn't actually a mutant. First appearing in 1966 X-Men issue 19, the character's abilities include power mimicry and the ability to permanently possess the original powers of the original 5 X-Men. We're talking Angel, Beast, Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Iceman. Now, because of his involvement in the team, it's easy to see why many readers would assume that he's got the X gene, but really, it's all chopped up to his metamorphic capabilities, and the fact that he could do many of those things that the X-Men we just listed off could do in their early days. His powers were derived from an accidental mix-up of chemicals from his father's experiments, and he's been on the X-Men side plenty of times throughout history, which definitely adds to the confusion. In at number 4, Deadpool. Deadpool was first introduced in the New Mutants issue 98 back in 1991. He's a human, who is now a human mutate, who suffered from cancer, and underwent experimentation in the Weapon X program. This gave him an accelerated healing factor in which his normal cells and his cancerous cells are unable to die, which is why his body underneath his suit is so heavily scarred. The character's accelerated healing factor, which has different levels of efficiency based on his mental state and the severity of his wounds, has proven to be strong enough to resurrect him from death, complete incineration, and even decapitation on multiple occasions. I mean, I just hate it when I'm decapitated and I die afterwards. It must be so nice to be able to revive oneself. But also you can't get drunk, so that sucks. In at number 3, Juggernaut. Juggernaut is Kane Marco, Charles Xavier's stepbrother who first graced Marvel's pages in 1965's X-Men issue 12. Juggernaut, because of his origins with the X-Men and time spent in Magneto's Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, is often believed to be a mutant. But he actually gets his powers thanks to the mystical entity of Sidorak, who empowers him with magical energies that grant him superhuman strength and extreme durability. He gained these powers after he found a gem inside of a hidden temple and read the inscription etched on it. He's not the only one who's represented Sidorak over the years either, but he's definitely the most popular one. Up next, number 2, Quicksilver. Marvel's speedster Quicksilver has long been thought of as a mutant, and it was technically the case for a while. That was until a retcon changed his past so that he wasn't actually a mutant at all. He and his twin sister Wanda, aka Scarlet Witch, were born to human parents rather than being Magneto's kids. So, I mean, since it's kind of a duo situation, we might as well move on to our next number and continue talking about Pietro and his sister with our number 1 spot, Scarlet Witch. So, Scarlet Witch Wanda Maximoff has had to deal with a whole lot of retconning since she was first created in 1964. Now, she was long believed to be a mutant like her brother, but now is a human mutate. This retcon went down in 2014 in Uncanny Avengers issue 4, in which, rather than being the daughter of Magneto, her and Quicksilver were born to humans named Django and Maria Maximoff, and were later brought to the High Evolutionary, in which experiments were conducted on them that gave them their powers. The twins were then brought back to their parents and led to believe that they were born mutants. Interestingly enough, in the 2016 Scarlet Witch series, it was also revealed that Wanda is able to use witchcraft, which actually runs through her family and her female ancestors. Alright, there we have it, friends. What other characters can you think of that seem like they'd be mutants but they 100% are not? Give us a shout in those comments below and let us know. If you dug this video, you guys know what to do. Hit that like button, share it with a friend, and be sure to subscribe to Top 10 Nerd for more content just like this. In the meantime, thanks for watching, friends. I'll catch you all in the next video.